Hi, Gordon Atkinson here with my third video on hell. There will be four. I can see that now. I'm going to need four. So, and as always, I'm trying to keep this thing as short as possible. So let's get right into it. Today, I'm going to tell you what I think. I'm going to give you my thoughts based on the study that we've done and the passages we've looked at together. And I'd like to do that by addressing each of the three components of hell, which I've mentioned from the very beginning. That a traditional view of hell says hell is real. Hell is infinite. It lasts forever and ever and ever. There's no going back once you go there. And third, that it is non-Christians who will be going there. The people headed for hell are people who have not become a Christian. That's the traditional view. So it kind of divides the world into Christians and everybody else. So let's look at those three things. On the first question, the question of does hell exist? Is it real? I think it would be pretty irresponsible of me as a biblical student and to not own up to the fact that the New Testament does speak about hell. Some kind of important place of judgment or judging event that takes place that is based on our lives that we are living right now. The New Testament speaks of that. Jesus does. Now, I don't know what Jesus meant exactly. I don't know if he meant a literal place called Gehenna, or if he was just talking about a judgment event, but yeah, Jesus talks about hell. So you have to decide whether you think that makes sense to you or not. And for many Christians, of course, the Bible says that there's hell there, so they've got to at least factor that in. So I'm kind of agnostic on the subject. I still feel really uneasy about the whole idea, but I'm willing to own up to the fact that Jesus talked about it. Now, this is important. Though the New Testament mentions hell, in no way does the New Testament give us any details about the place. It's very clear that Jesus had absolutely no purpose to convey to you and I the details of whatever judgment exists after this life between God and people. It's mentioned, it's very serious, but we are not told details about it, and that needs to be an important thing to remember. You know, how much importance is this doctrine of hell going to be to your Christianity compared to other things in the New Testament? That's important to know too. I would say not much. I would say that what happens at hell is kind of kept secret in the New Testament. Now, on the second question about hell being infinite, I can't find any decent evidence for that whatsoever. I think reading a notion of linear infinity, a linear infinity in terms of a time or a timeline, reading that back into Aionios is just really puzzling. You know, it's of the ages, or age of the ages. It's the judgment of the ages. It's a place where you're judged for the ages, the darkness of the ages. It's an intensifier, clearly. But what kind of intensifier? A temporal intensifier? I don't know. What does under the ages mean? Is this the ultimate judgment? This is not just a judgment or a judging of how well you did last week at your job. This is the sum of your life, the sum total of your life. This is the judgment of the ages for you. I think it's an intensifier, which again goes to kind of intensify the nature of the seriousness, the serious nature of our devotion to God. It's an intensifier, but I do not see it as being infinite. And I'll tell you something else. An infinite hell is extremely limiting to God. I mean, I don't know why anyone would read that back into it. I mean, suddenly God's hands are tied. You know, God says, well, sorry, you're in hell, but I'm utterly helpless about it. This makes sense in a lot of ways. So, and we have the book of Revelation saying that Hades itself is destroyed in the end, gives up its dead. So I would say no. No, the New Testament does not tell us anything about duration with this. Now, on to the third thing. Who goes there? This is the part that's extremely critical. I mean, let's be honest. We read the passages. I read them. You've read them. In 100% of the instances when hell is spoken about in the New Testament, 100% of the time, the people that are going there are hypocritical religious insiders. There is a couple of suggestions of just evil people, but most of the time, and certainly with everything that Jesus said, he was speaking to his own disciples and people within the Jewish community inside of his own religious tradition. Christians who claim the name of Christ, but have nothing changed in their life, don't help anyone. I mean, they're just really sully the name of Christ by living lives without any careful, gentle love of the world and any love of their fellow human beings. People who do this are the ones spoken of. This idea that all Christians are somehow going to heaven and everybody else in the world is going to hell, I just don't find it there. And so I think we've got to be honest here. If you're going to believe in a literal hell, if you're going to say, you know what, the New Testament says hell, Jesus talked about hell, so I believe it, then aren't you bound as well to take seriously what the New Testament says about who's going there? And if that's the case, it's religious insiders. We who claim the name of Christ, with our lives and with our words, we are the ones who are in danger of some kind of judgment of the ages, were we to let God down in this in some way. I don't think you can take one without the other. I don't think it's right to say there is a hell, like the Bible says, but unlike the New Testament says, we're all safe and everybody outside in the world is going there. So what does this do? Well, I don't know that I really believe in a place called hell. I think this life matters. I think the New Testament is trying to tell us that this life matters, and I think that my commitment to Christ is important, and I need to take it as an important thing and not take it lightly. When it comes to people around the world, on the other side of the world, Buddhist people, people living in jungles, just everyone else, the New Testament doesn't seem to have as its purpose to say anything about them whatsoever. And so how did we get this idea in the first place? Well, it's been convenient for the church. I mean, telling people they're going to go to hell unless they join your church, well, it's obvious how that could be tempting for the church to say. It also puts a huge burden on Christian people. And I've carried this burden. I mean, for years, I'd walk around thinking, people are going to go to hell if I don't convince them to become a Christian. That's a pretty terrible motivation to have. I think that you can let go of that anxiety. I don't think the New Testament is calling us to be anxious and fearful about the way God's going to treat people in the world, in the afterlife. So that's what I think of what the New Testament says. Now, in the next video, I'm going to suggest that we've been approaching the question of hell in a completely wrong way all along, and I'm going to suggest a new way to think about this. And it'd be interesting to get your feedback in the comments after the 4th video. So, okay, time to go. I've appreciated being there with you. I hope I've been honest and clear with where I stand on this. If I haven't, leave me a comment and I'll try to address it in writing somewhere. Thanks.